I know so many people that were applying to schools that were super far away just to kind of escape the everyday life, just to kind of escape like, you know, family life and their upbringing and different things like that. And so it was more so like, I want to leave here because of my environment, not because that's where I'm supposed to be.
Exactly.
And so I think like a lot of people, even in our audience, can like relate to that, like just really trying to run away, like to avoid having to be in the same environment that causes maybe trauma or pain.
Right.
Hey, to all of my aspiring visionary friends, welcome back to Becoming That Visionary series. I am Demaya Unique. For those who do not know, I am the one who pushes you to your purpose. And today we have Armani here, who is a boot camp graduate, now a visionary leader, and she the OG. She's from cohort 1, okay? Cohort number 1. And so we have her here today. I will now go ahead and allow her to introduce herself, and then we are going to get into today's topic, which is focusing on yourself first.
Okay, well, hey y'all, what's up? I am Armani, as she stated, also known as Coach AK. I was not Coach AK before the boot camp, but I am a mindset and faith coach. I push young women to overcome mental health barriers while walking in their true identity.
We love to hear it. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I know that all of our viewers and audience will appreciate the conversation that we have today. So again, today's discussion or topic, we're talking about focusing on yourself first and the importance of focusing on yourself first. And so just a couple of questions that I have for you, just so you can kind of like elaborate about your experience, where you've been, so that others can know and relate to the fact that we haven't always been where we were.
Right.
Like we've been through, like we may not look like what we've been through,
Sure
but but we've been through some things,
Right.
okay? And I was just talking to someone actually last night, and I was saying like, people don't realize like what you had to pay for to stand where you are today, like what you had to endure, what you had to experience, basically the cost. They don't understand like what you had to pay to stand and have the anointing that you have in your life. So just to start in our conversation, the very first question that I have for you is, what was life like before the boot camp? I know you were in school. I know you were also in North Carolina, I believe, going to NCAT, and you were, I think, majoring in all. I don't want to tell you a story, but I know those were some things that I remember before, like, you know, we kind of came together and began to talk about the boot camp. So just tell us a little bit about your life and what that was like before the boot camp.
Okay, so before the boot camp, I was living for other people, doing things that were expected of me based on, you know, my upbringing and stuff like that. But I was filled with, like, I wasn't happy at all. Let's just say that. I wasn't really connected with God as much as I am now. I've always had a relationship with God. I've always known him, but because of like the mindset and the mental state that I was in, it kind of separated me from God. But yeah, like I said, I was really just living for other people, not knowing really like what I wanted to do for me or even how to do that. Yeah.
So when you were in college, like what were you going to study for, and did you know like what life was going to look like after college?
I had it all planned out, all listed out. I was going to go to college, finish off, even go and get my master's and all that. I had it all figured out, but I only went during that moment just to get away. Like, I remember my senior year, I would be counting down, not because I was ready to really go to school and start, you know, building friends there, starting being a part of different activities and communities there, but I just wanted to get away. Like, that's all I was worried about. I didn't really care. After a while, I stopped caring about my grades. I was just counting down to get away.
Right.
I wanted to go as far away as possible just to get away from everything.
That's good. And I feel like that's something to talk about too, like, because I feel like, especially when I was in my senior year of high school, like, I know so many people that were applying to schools that were super far away just to kind of escape the everyday life, just to kind of escape, like, you know, family life and their upbringing and different things like that. And so it was more so like, I want to leave here because of my environment, not because that's where I'm supposed to be.
Exactly.
And so I think like a lot of people, even in our audience, can like relate to that, like just really trying to run away, like to avoid having to be in the same environment that causes maybe trauma or pain. So That's a really good point that you made that. So my next question is, what made you say I need to take time to focus on myself?
Okay, so I remember being in North Carolina, and at the time I was staying with family, and it was just me there at the house like all day by myself. And I noticed like I would just spend the day in the room sleeping, and then I would be up all night just worrying and thinking about different things. Like it wasn't really anything that I was enjoying. And then I came back home, and then one night I just remember like being in bed and just crying out to God, like, I need to change. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep living in fear. I can't keep worrying about tomorrow. I can't keep making up stuff in my head and letting it affect me now. I can't keep running away from things I've been through. Like, I need to face it. I need to get to the bottom of everything. And it was like, it was a big step, but I just knew I had to do it because I couldn't keep living like that.
Right. And it's crazy, like, even going back to, like you said, like, running away, like, it's crazy how it will still catch up with you.
Right. And
like,
it did. Yeah. It caught up to me.
Literally. And I think I was talking about this before, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Like, so many times, like, people, like, they hustle and they grind and they make sure they got their career together and they're, you know, making all of this money and different things like that. But then the thing is, like, that soul work that you never, like, made sure you took care of or that you put first, like, it catches up with you in your house with millions and cars. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's, like, very important that we take care or take the time to take care of our soul and take care of our minds and our mental health and different things like that. So that was a really good thing. The next thing we are going to talk about is your experience in the boot camp. So after we know what brought you and where you were before the boot camp came, so talking about your experience in the boot camp, what do you feel like the biggest thing that the boot camp helped you with?
The biggest thing that the boot camp helped me with was making God the center and going by His plan and His purpose rather than what I felt like was right for my life or what I felt like everyone else thought was right for me. Another thing that I feel like really helped me with the boot camp was including God in everything. Making sure that before I say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, just doing it on my own and not consulting God first. So that was really a big thing. That's something that I even carry with me now in my, business journey.
And did you hear it say, honey?
My business journey.
Business journey, okay? And that's what I loved. And even when I thought about this whole series, I was like, okay, who is someone that I can interview to help someone that may be at the beginning stages where you were and was going through and realizing I need a life change. Like, I need to literally change the direction of my life. And but also seeing where you are now. And so now we're going to talk about your after and where you are. So after, where you were before when you were in college and then coming home, going through the boot camp, and talk about like where you are now and the things that you've gained to be here.
Right. Okay, so just starting out, where I am now is because it all started out in a boot camp and I really started making changes. And I was also going to therapy at the same time. So using the boot camp, that was my faith outlet, still making sure I was being connected to God. And then therapy was used for, my physical being and my mental being. But it all goes together and all ties in together. So with therapy, I realized, like, I learned that I was operating for everybody else. And I was unpacking different things with my therapist, and it led me to the understanding, to the conclusion that I wasn't at school for myself. I was at school to get away. I was at school to please everyone else. So I decided, okay, I know I went to school, and that's not why I want to be in school. So I took a step back, but I didn't want to just not do anything. I still knew I had a calling on my life. I still knew that I wanted to help people with their mental health, their emotional health. So then I found life coaching, that avenue. And then after the boot camp, I started building my brand foundation with you. So I was putting in work there, and then I was also attending coaching school. And then I'm here now, a certified life coach. Built a faith-based business with a purpose pusher. And it's great. It's crazy because I've never really taken the time to, because the boot camp was like a year ago, probably last month. I hit like a year mark. But I've never taken
a lot can happen in a year.
A lot happened in a year.
And that's what's beautiful. Like, I think that's the beautiful part about it is that people realize, like, it's this TikTok. I don't know if you've seen it. It was like, 3 to 6 months. Like, I give you 3 to 6 months and you're going to be better. You're going to change. And it's crazy, like, how much can actually happen in a year when you really put your mind to it, that I'm going to take the time. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to make these investments into myself. Like you said, like, not only was it the boot camp, but it was also therapy. And then moving forward, not only was it working with a coach or a brand builder or whatever, but it was also going to school and learning at the same time. And so, but it's not only, and that's one thing that I've always seen in you, not only were you taking the time to learn, but you were taking the time to apply. And that's why I believe that your life has been transformed as fast as it has been, because you didn't play. Like, when you said I was ready to change my life, like, that's exactly what you mean, or exactly what you meant, because you came in and not only did you learn, but you took the time. Every time there was homework, every time there was activities, every time there was a meeting, you showed up and you made sure, like, you were kind of like, this is all I got, like, this is my life, and I'm not playing with my life, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like because you did that, like, your life has been transformed, of course, by the grace of God, but your life has been transformed the way that it has, and that's what's beautiful about it all. And like you said, I feel like sometimes we don't take the time to, like, really reflect over, dang, like, I made these investments and look at my return. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is your return on investment. Like, sitting here being able to say, I'm a certified life coach, I have this business, and so that's.
And I'm not gonna lie, I was making excuses too, like, when the boot camp came around, because that was during the time when like, the anxiety that I was filled with, it was just so bad to the point where it was like I wasn't able to keep a job during that moment. I didn't have steady income coming in, but it was like I knew it was something I needed to do, so I made those sacrifices. I went in my not saying that everybody has to do this, but it's just like I went in my savings account, paid for the boot camp, but then I also was like, okay, but I still, I still got to keep moving. So then I started doing Shipt and Instacart and stuff like that. It's all about just, like, not making excuses. Because the moment you make that first excuse, then the rest of the excuses just going to follow up. And it's like, good. Then now you're just living in a world full of excuses.
And that's the thing too that I think is important, because like you said, like, what you want, you're going to make a sacrifice for. Like, if you want to see your life change in a year, then you'll start making sacrifices and investments now so that you can see a change in the future. And, like, even when it comes to growth, like, you may not be able to measure growth, like, because you're growing every single day. Like, it's about what your daily practices are, so that, when you look up a year from now, you're not the same person that you were a year ago. But it's also about the sacrifices you make, the daily practices you take and stuff like that. But also what I found interesting as well is that sometimes as young people, like, we are eager to take this trip out of the country. We're eager to buy this new car. We're eager to spend money at, H&M and all of these places. But when it comes down to investing into yourself, it's like, I'm hesitant. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, like, especially, like, when it comes to even each and every one of you that are listening, like, when it comes to making investments into yourself, like, it's really about, like, where do you want to go, and are you willing to make the sacrifices necessary to get there? So yeah, that was.
Can I say something?
You can add your 3 cents.
When you invest in things that you don't see the residual or the what am I trying to say, or the product or whatever right away, those are the best investments.
They are.
Like, I have nothing against investing in, hair and beauty and stuff like that. And it's so easy for us to do it because we know, as soon as I get out the chair, I'm going to look better. The wig can only last a few days.
Very true. That hairstyle, look, this hairstyle only lasts a good 2 months.
This is a week old. It's time to take it down. But it's just like when you invest in things like your spiritual health, your mindset, stuff like that, that is stuff that you could take with you forever. And you could share with other people. You can't keep sharing wigs when you can't share wigs. You can't share those with people. You can't pass down that to your children or to your family. You can't break curses with stuff like that.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, like you said, like, we are. And it's crazy, I heard this quote, and I don't know if you remember from the boot camp, it was like one of our morning sessions, and we were listening to one of the pastors, I think it was Pastor Emery, and he said, we live in a instant gratification world, and we want, like, instant gratification. We want to see, like, we want happiness instead of joy. Like, and that's what speaks volume. Like, do you want just to be happy, or do you want joy when storms are going on, and you're able to have that joy, have that peace? And I know even for our generation, like, the spirit of anxiety, the spirit of depression is running rampant. It's heavy. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the things are too is because we are not living we're not living intentionally. We're not living according to how God wants us to live, how we're not walking in our purpose. You know what I'm saying? We're kind of caught up in what people define as the best life to live. You know what I mean? We're caught up in what people call as goals and different things like that. And I'll talk about that in one of the videos coming up, because there's a difference between goals and vision. And I don't think our generation understands that. I don't think our generation understands the fact that it's not always about being instantly, like, you know, receiving instant gratification. It's about those long-lasting things, like having family, having healthy relationships, and different things like that. So, yeah, that's what I would add to that. Did you want to add anything else?
No, you're good. You wrapped it out.
Wrapped it up with a buck. Okay, the next question that I have for you is, how did you use your pain for purpose? Hello, friends. So y'all know I had to take a brief intermission, right, to give y'all the tea of what's coming up. We got a whole 3-day virtual summit, Becoming That Visionary, coming up August 10th, August 11th, and August 12th at 7 p.m. EST. Okay, so day 1, we are going to be covering how a lack of identity affects you, your mental health, your confidence, your worth, your esteem, and why it's so important, so much that it really should have been the first thing that we learned before we went to kindergarten. Okay, day 2, we are learning how to use your past and pain for purpose. We are no longer looking at our past as baggage. Okay, we know, and we should know, that God has been speaking our entire lives. Okay, day 3, we are learning how to change our lives by identifying God's vision for you. Listen, your whole life can change. The whole direction of your life, whole course of your life can change by identifying what God has to say concerning your life. Okay, so make sure that y'all click the link in my bio and y'all go and register for this summit. Listen, it is going to be great. It's going to be impactful, and I am super excited. See you soon.
Ooh, you're gonna have me here crying. Okay, so
but this ain't therapy. I mean, we can make it.
Right. But the way that I use my pain for purpose is because I had to get out of the mindset of, because I was there for a second, like, why me? Why did this happen to me? Or, you know, what made God think I was strong enough for this? Or what was the point of all of this? Or what did I do to deserve that? I had to take a step back away from me and realize that it's not about me at all. It's about God receiving His glory and bringing people to His kingdom, and also helping others who don't have access to God in terms of not knowing who He is.
Right.
Not because, you know, He's not there for me, because they don't know how to get to Him. Right. So, yeah, that was something that I really had to do, was just put myself aside and know that everything that I've been through, everything that's to come, it's not about me at all. And that's just how I look at things now when I go. Of course, I'm still human, and I have my emotions about it in a storm, but then I also, you know, have to switch back on and remember this is going to be for God's glory.
That's good. Like, do you think when you were, like, in that time, like, just kind of reflecting in that time, like, what do you feel like was the hardest thing to overcome, like, when it came to, like, knowing that, like basically being in a moment where it's like, I know this is going to work out for good, but right now it don't feel good? Like, what were your thoughts, like, in that area? Okay,
so really just honing in into to therapy. I will have sessions where I feel empowered afterwards. I feel like, okay, I'm ready to apply this. I'm ready to go. But then the same cycle is happening around me. And then I would reach some points where I'd be like, I'm about to just tell my therapist I'm done. It's no point. Like, this is just what it's going to be. And that was really hard when I hit those moments and I felt like it was no point. Because it's like, if I'm putting in the work, but then everything or everyone around me isn't, and they just constantly doing the same thing, what is the point? Right. Why am I putting in all this work? And it's not even my fault that I'm going through this. Right. That was the main things. But I had to, another mindset shift that I had to do was knowing that I may have not been responsible for the hurt, but I have to be responsible for the healing. Right. And that's what really pushed me after a while.
That's good. Like, that is really good, because I think Like, I asked that question because, like, so many times, like, we can talk from a place of, like, you know, I've done it, but people don't realize, like, we've been in it. And in that moment, it's not easy.
Right.
It's not easy to have to accept what's been done to you.
Exactly.
And then you may know, like, of course, like, because you have a relationship with God, that God is going to work it for good. But in that moment, it's like, this hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Or how long is it going to take to see his goodness?
Exactly. Like, how long is it going to take?
Yeah.
Like, and I think, like you said, but it's, God is waiting for our mindsets to shift. That's really, like, a good point that you made. Like, when my mindset shifted, then, like, that's when you begin to see, like, the change happening in you, so that you could be prepared for your next. And, like, when you were talking, something that came to my mind was that I think we all have to accept the fact that pain is inevitable. You're going to experience pain because we live in a broken world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so when you begin to look at that, it's not so much woe is me, like, why do I got to go through this, or why do I have to be without a father, or why do I have to, you know, experience this. It's then now looking at it like, okay, since pain is inevitable, since my parents are broken, since their parents was broken, now what can I do? What decisions can I make moving forward so that God can heal me and I can see how he works this out for good.
Right.
So that was a really good point that you made. Did you want to say anything else to that?
No.
Alrighty. The last question that I have for us today is, how does what you know now about focusing on yourself, about using your pain for purpose, how would you say that contradicts what you've been taught in society, like, all your life?
Okay, so, you know, in society we're taught that it's gonna happen, suck it up, move on, or whatever, but we're not taught how to heal from what happened. It's not always good to just push things aside and try to forget about things and try to suppress it. That's not healthy at all, because, like we mentioned earlier, it always comes back. And that's hard when it comes back up and you're like, whoa, I thought I forgot about this, or whoa, I thought I was over this. But, like, what I know now in terms of taking care of myself, especially my mental health, like I said, I've always had a relationship with God, but I didn't know how to put my relationship with God and use it for my mental health benefits. And another thing that we're taught in society is basically like, well, if you have mental health issues, you're not praying enough, or you're not believing in God or if you do believe in God and you have mental health issues, then that's a problem. You can't be upset, or you can't suffer with anxiety, you can't have depression if you know God. And I feel like that's wrong, because even in the Bible, there are many different scriptures that correlates to the mind and going back how God will be your peace. David, he had his moments of anxiety and different things, like, so it counters it all. Like, you have to put the two together. You can't have one without the other. You can't focus on one without the other. It all ties in together.
That's good. Like, I think the biggest thing, like you were saying, like, because you touched on two different aspects as well. Not only did you touch on society, but I believe you also touched on the church sometimes, because we can, like, it's like kind of twofold. The biggest thing, like you said, with society is, like, especially in the black generation, we're taught, or black culture, society, or whatever, we're taught that just sweep it under the rug. Like, move on. Like, that was life. Sweep it under the rug. But when you sweep things under the rug, we don't realize it, but it comes out in our behavior. So you can become silent about it. You don't ever have to talk about it. That's what we're taught in society. Don't talk about it. Don't mention it. And especially back in the day, kids weren't even given a voice, you know what I'm saying, to be able to talk about what happened growing up. They basically had this rule: what stays in the home stays in the home, and that's it. And so they were completely silenced. And so then it was like, you silence with your mouth, but your behavior is talking about it. Your behavior is a product of what you've been through. And that's the thing too, like, even when you choose to run, you still acting like whatever hurt you, right? You know what I'm saying? And that, would you want to ask something? Because that's what's crazy to me.
That's crazy, because that's like I said, that's why I was going to school, to get away. But then when I went to school, I noticed, like, I'm still feeling those same feelings that I felt back home. I'm still isolating myself because I'm so anxious and I don't want to go out and meet new people. I literally went to school and paid to live in a dorm. That's literally all I did. I went to my classes. I was still getting the great grades, because I always put all my focus and my pain and my grades, and proving to people that, okay, I could be a straight A student and I could do this and I could do that, but it was never really, you know, something that I put aside for my mental health. I really think that my grades affected my mental health in a bad way, because there were times when I should have taken a break, or I should have taken on certain things, but I did to prove that I was worthy because of these grades. But dang, what was I about to say?
I don't know, but that's good.
That was good. I got caught up in it. Okay, but yeah, when I went to school, I noticed like, okay, I'm just still operating the same way. It came back up, and then that's when I knew like something is wrong with me. Not saying like I'm wrong and I'm broken and I'll forever be like this, but I knew like this isn't how I should be living.
Right.
And I noticed like I was living like this at home, but I wasn't paying attention to it.
Right.
So I don't regret ever going to North Carolina and going away, because it showed me what I wasn't taking care of back home.
Right.
Because I'm like, this isn't normal. It's not normal at all. But it had became my norm here to cope.
Right.
And to go to sleep, make myself go to sleep so I won't have to deal with other stuff. I was doing that in school. Like, okay, I'm going to do my homework, and then I'm going to bed for the rest of the day. I would go to bed at 2 o'clock. Just because it was just overwhelming for me to be up. And then that's when I noticed that's not good.
Right. Yeah, that's
not good at all.
Those some gems right there. Those some gems. And I say that because it's like you really like you said, the biggest things you set out was that it became my normal. And then when I stepped away from the environment that I was in, like, I realized that what was abnormal to me at first was now my normal. And then, but it's really not normal. It's just that I'm numb to the situation. Right. And so now it has been like, it's conformed me, or it's transformed me in a way that what I hated so much, I became.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What I didn't like so much, I became. And it was because I didn't take the time to heal. I didn't take the time to really focus on myself. But like you said, even escaping. And that's what, like, the main thing, especially when it comes to the boot camp, is like giving you that 10 weeks. For you, it was 8 weeks, but giving you that 10 weeks where you escape. Because, girl, the boot camp getting worse. It's getting worse, but in a good way, because when I say boot camp, I really want to treat it like a boot camp where they literally have to, like, you know how you go to basic training and stuff? They have like you have to go through basic training and stuff. You have to like turn your phone off and all of that stuff, and you basically have to escape, like, because that's what we all need. Like, we've been living life for 20 plus years, and we've never taken the time to like just withdraw ourselves. And like because even for you in North Carolina, that was your time to withdraw, to notice like, I need to take care of this and this within myself, my physical, my mental, my spiritual. Like, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of these, because this is like, something is wrong, something needs to change. And then also what you said, dang, you said something earlier. You said, what did you say before? It wasn't the last part. It was before the last part.
I mentioned my coping.
When you was talking about, and you were in school and for your grades, and you said that you put your pain in your grades. And like, that's what's crazy, because people will literally insert their pain and go work. Like, because they're hurt, they put their all into their job and they work themselves half to death. Or for you, like, it was school, and putting your all into school to prove to people like you're good enough and you're this excellent student and everything like that. But it wasn't ever living for you or living for God. You know what I'm saying? It was more so, I'm living to show you that I can.
Right.
And that I will, and that I'm smart. But it's like, why? It's exhausting. Even you said, like, it's exhausting to have to prove yourself to him, her, and them, and all of these people. For what? Like, what do you gain out of that?
Exactly. And the crazy part about it is, I was doing that all unconsciously. It was something that had been put into my head. I remember I was told, like, once I got to high school, I got a B. I was told, well, I bet the white kids that you went to middle school with still getting straight A's. That was something that stuck with me. And I'm like, wow, 1B? And that's what I'm told?
I got a B.
And, right. Like, in the honors class, I was confused. But in a moment, it pierced me a little bit. But then in the back of my head, that was just always playing in the unconscious part of my mind. So then I would exert full force on different school projects, making sure I was in all the top classes, in the top music programs, everything, just because that one comment that was made to me. Or because the only time I really felt like, you know, lifted up was when I brought home awards, or when I brought home different certificates and you know, stuff like that. And it was able to say, well, Armani did this, or that's my daughter, she did this, she did that, or whatever, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, as a kid, you just take on different things, and you don't know what to filter out, and you just collect different things, and then you act based on what you've heard.
Yeah, and that's crazy too, because especially in the boot camp, we learn like exposing the roots.
Right.
And so like the biggest thing that you just did, probably a lot of those in the audience, is expose like why we are overachievers. And that's what I've had to deal with. Like, it's crazy because we alike. But like I've had to deal with being an overachiever, because I always felt like I wasn't doing good enough, or I had to do all of these things to be good enough, to be looked at as smart, to be looked at as like, this is my child, I'm proud of her, or because I didn't hear I'm proud of you, and I had someone who walked away as a parent, I felt like, okay, well, I'm about to prove to you that I can do it without you. You know what I'm saying? And so that was my mentality, but it caused me to become an overachiever, where I was literally working myself to the bone when I should have been resting. Like, you know what I mean? Where I should have been taking care of my mind. I should have been taking care of different things. And so it's crazy, because even when you said like that one comment that was made, the enemy uses things like that to cause a wound, to create a wound in us, so that he can continue to play on for the rest of our lives. But it was literally the day you said, my life got to change, and God began to expose those different things through therapy, through the boot camp, and all of those things, so that you can begin to address that and you can heal it. So that was really, really good. I think we are all out of questions, I believe. I think I went over everything. Do you have any last things that you want to say? Any pieces of advice you would give to them?
Yes, when you're on your journey of building your relationship with God, and also if you are a person who, you know, struggles with mental health as well, whenever the journey gets rough, or it seems like it's no point, or if you're praying, you feel like God don't hear me, or I'm sinning and I'm making these mistakes and I'm not perfect, I might as well just walk away, God doesn't want me, don't listen to that. As soon as you start feeling that, that is a sign to keep going, because that's when I received the most breakthroughs. When I felt like I'm done with this, it's over with, but then I kept pushing myself, it would be soon after I realized I'm in the right space. I'm on the right track. So don't give up. Don't give up at all. That is actually a sign that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. When you start to doubt yourself and start taking on those different thoughts, that's a sign. Don't let those, you know, control you.
That's really good. That's really good. So once again, thank you so much for coming on
Thank you
here.
for having me.
I really do appreciate it, and I pray that each and every one of you have been blessed by her testimony, by her life's experiences. Again, this was Becoming That Visionary series, and we have talked about focusing on yourself first and the importance of focusing on yourself first, and we also talked about using your pain for purpose. So I pray that this has encouraged your heart and mind. You took a whole lot of notes, and if you didn't, go rewatch it, okay? And I will see y'all in the next video. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye.
Bye.